Number 15. Henry and the Wishing Tree. I've heard of wishing wells, but nope. Only Sodor can come up with a freaking wishing tree. I'm not even angry at the fact Henry was dumb enough to even try it. It's the fact that, all of a sudden, this dude don't know how to pull passengers. I'm sorry, what? Did somebody writing this actually make Henry this stupid? How do you go from pulling passengers all throughout the classic series, then you just magically forget to where you're bumping these poor and biffed all this fake-ass looking food? What? For real, when is the last time we saw Henry pull coaches? Season 7? 6? Again, I'm not even mad at the whole wishing on a tree thing. I could really give a damn about that. Which, yes, the concept is still bad. But what pisses me off is how Henry's character is once again tarnished by poor writing. By the way, this mother did not just stop on the job to make a damn wish. What? Number 14. Don't go back. Okay, since when is it a good idea to race in a dangerous place of work? There are engines at work, and here are Thomas and Diesel trying to see who is the fastest. Oh yeah, the Vendetta also came back so suddenly. Don't you just love that? This careless goofing around is something we've already seen in Big Bang and Kevin the Steamy. In Big Bang, Thomas and the Little Engines are playing jokes on one another. Meanwhile, there's work to be done. And you're gonna tell me that no workman saw any of this bullshit happening? And in Steamy, Kevin is playing with Thomas and Percy near dangerous machines and other people on the job. Yeah, that's real safe. It's the same with these two. First off, racing backwards that took Mavis off the track and sent Ari and Bert right through the shed. Plus, Henry's train isn't ready. You idiots. I want to know who approves of these stories, I really do. You're basically telling children that it's okay to play in dangerous places. Doesn't matter if they or someone else gets hurt, right? Well, you know what I think about this?
These scribbles are a bunch of cockamamie balderdash! Excuse my French. Je ne sais quoi sacre bleu au revoir.
Number 13. The Green Controller. What is this constant trend of having engines run a freaking railway? Are you really that lazy to find another human to run it? Why is Sir Topham allowing one of his youngest engines to run Sodor? Why didn't he just choose Lady Hat? I'm sure she could have done it. We all know how Percy screws up a lot. So, yeah, bad choice. And I'm not at all surprised that they just had to make merchandise out of this freaking thing. Admittingly, I do own a prototype wooden railway that I now wish I never owned. Someone hand me a Molotov or something. Topham was drunk or something when he made this choice. Just like the knuckleheads who greenlit this stupid episode. Number 12. Rosie's Funfair Special. Yeah, I used to like this episode back in the day, but now it does nothing for me. There are so many things in this that really bug me. First, Rosie acting like a little bitch because she has to be a back engine for this train. You know, you're still helping to pull it, so get over yourself. Next, Emily had to go to High Farm, not Hill Farm. Hill Farm is in the high hills of Sodor. Get your facts straight, Rosie. Third, why would you tease us with Stepney? There was absolutely no reason that he had to be brought back if he was never going to be used again after this episode. And lastly, the one thing that really irritates me, how are the couplings breaking so easily? That to me doesn't make any sense. If they're this old, then why are you using these specific trucks for a special? I know there's probably a good amount of people that like this episode. I'm sorry, but it just makes me sick. Number 11. Thomas's frosty friend. And... yeah, you heard me correctly. I said and. Don't be silly, Billy. Well, these two were really hard to choose between, and I hate them both for the exact same reason. The 5-strike rule. Let me explain. Frosty Friend is so frustratingly bad that my ears bleed whenever I hear this. First, I love how the balloon just magically hitched itself onto Thomas. Then he encountered this thing 5 times on his journey.
What are you doing here, Mr. Snowman? You must go back to the children, tooted Thomas. They'll be very sad without you. Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman, I told you to go back to the children, cried Thomas. Why are you still following me? Mr. Snowman danced in front of Thomas again. He was still following him.
And then James, Nicole, and Emily tried to tell him it was a balloon from a clear listening distance. Yeah, Thomas, I got a question. Are your ears broken? Don't Be Silly is literally just a rehash, but with an irritating little shit to deal with. Let this sink in. 5 times, he had to be told by Thomas to do his jobs properly. But no, according to Billy, that's being bossy, apparently.
Thomas, stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine. Don't tell me what to do, Thomas. You are a very bossy engine. Stop telling me what to do, Thomas. You are a very bossy engine. Stop telling me what to do, Thomas. You are a very, very bossy engine. Thomas, stop telling me what to do. You are a very bossy engine.
I'm sorry, Billy. We'll leave you alone. I and all of us forgot that you're such an expert at these particular jobs, you Timothy knockoff-looking mother. Personally, if that were me in Thomas's place after seeing Billy run out of coal and water, I would have left him there. Him. Between both of these, I honestly want to take a pushpin and pop that goddamn balloon, and I want to take my hands and strangle Billy right around his non-existent little neck. Number 10. Edward strikes out. I have 3 questions. Why? Why? And why? This Edward is an imposter. We would never see him behave like this. I think that's been mentioned time and time again. Why is Edward the bad guy here? I can see this coming from Gordon, 'cause he's a dick. Maybe even James if he were possibly written for this. Edward normally has his buffers wide open for newcomers. Oh wait! Not all the time!
He doesn't even look like an engine.
And since when did Edward start listening to Gordon? He never did before. So why now? This is also a case where I really don't give a shit about Rocky. He's just there most of the time. I really can't say anything else about this, other than it's just a pile of
Schmebulok. Yeah, exactly. It's a total load of schmebulok.
Number 9. Lorenzo Solo. I really had high hopes for Lorenzo to be another really good international character, and he failed. After his debut in Minds of Mystery, I was really starting to like him. But after this, I think he needs to disappear in that mine again. You were really that ignorant to leave Beppis behind so that you could pull this famous opera singer? You know, you could have just put the special coach in between. No? Oh, that's right, I forgot! We're trying to teach the kids something here! And that is how to completely ditch your friends to make yourself look cool and more important. What idiot thought that was logical? Seriously, can Lorenzo just disappear again? I think we're all better off without him. Number 8. Panicky Percy. Admittingly, when this first aired, I didn't think it was that bad. However, when I saw it a second time, it really didn't hold up, and I see where the argument lies. Percy's anxiety skyrockets to unbelievably over-exaggerated proportions. He's probably the wimpiest out of all the Steamies. How is that all of a sudden? I mean, this dude braved bad weather to help out a friend, saved another friend from nearly dying. Hell, he was even buried alive, for Christ's sakes. And he's really this worried about an avalanche? I'll admit, I've been struggling with anxiety for a long while now, but even my levels are not this extreme. This episode honestly makes people who struggle with anxiety seem like they're crazy, and I'd say that's a little too far-fetched. Look, ladies, are you really trying to ruin Percy's character? Because it seems like it to most of us. This dude has been through so much, and you've reduced him to an engine afraid of his own shadow. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Number 7. Apology Impossible. I knew James was a pompous asshole, but this? What the actual... Why was he made into such a bully here? Everything he did to Philip and the other engines. I wanted to take a bet and, yeah, start swinging.
Just bonk him over the head. It's nature's snooze button.
I don't think I have ever been this pissed with James. This is a new major low, even for someone like him. What I can't figure out is why it took Philip this long to get STH involved. But the one thing I believe that triggered a whole lot of people was when Philip tried to stand up to James, but he continued to act all snooty. Philip just no-you'd everything and backed up with the others to let James pass. That's basically implying that you can't stand up to bullies. It's like they're saying, hey bullies, I'm a free doormat you can just walk all over. What kind of fantasy world do we live in where that would be an appropriate action? After this horrific display, I don't know guys, I think it might be time to do some rethinking for my favorite character. Number 6. Emily Knows Best. As I said, Emily is not one of my favorites, and this episode just made me hate her even more. Don't you just love when characters claim that they all of a sudden know how to do certain things? It's irritating, isn't it? Emily needs to learn to keep her nose out of other engines' work, unless asked to help. Nobody asked her to tell Percy what to do when Toby was working with him. Of course, naive little Percy just had to listen to her and not wait for Toby to come back. Why? Because little Miss Emily wanted to play queen and boss others around. And you know what happened? Percy crashed, causing Mavis and Toby to crash, which ruined his cow catchers, the loads were all over, and the telephone line was down. Good job, Emily. Good job. Alright, before we go breaking into the top 5 worst, I want to go over some of the more dishonorable mentions that I have listed. And believe me when I say, there are a lot. Fergus breaks the rules. I do not understand this episode at all. What rule did Fergus break exactly? The fact that he left the job at a place that he technically was not even supposed to be? What? You know, these characters really have a bad habit of not asking. Fergus's crew was literally right there when they heard this bullshit story. Why didn't you confirm this with STH if you knew ahead of time that Diesel causes trouble? Idiots! Henry gets it wrong. Are you kidding me right now? You did not just bring back the damn wishing tree. How the hell is this thing still relevant? Oh, it's such an important landmark, right? It's a tree. If it falls, it falls. If it regrows, then it'll regrow. That's what trees do. You know, Henry acted very similar in Flagpole, but not as bad. And admittingly, it is a bit of a guilty pleasure. But blocking the lines doesn't exactly help anyone either, Henry. Which, by the way, I love how they think that is gonna save this tree. You watch, the next storm that blows in, that freaking thing will come right down. Tuneful toots. It ain't even the sound of the horn that makes me hate this episode, even though that's one of the many sounds that gets under my skin. But it's the fact that every single narrow gauge engine turned on Rusty because this dude was showing off. I mean, we don't physically see Qwdoiy, Rheneas, or Duncan say anything about Rusty's horn, but we got this.
That was Rusty. He thinks his horn is special, but we don't.
Right, because all y'all are just so much better sounding, right? Really love the friendship here, guys. Good job. Duncan and the hot air balloon. Well, obviously this is just a discount James and the Red Balloon, just heavily redone. Duncan was acting pretty selfishly, but I put most of the blame on Percival. Why did he wait until the last minute to give Duncan the full plan for his twins? Which, by the way, I love how that all of a sudden was brought up. What really is the deal with all these frickin' Sodor folk taking balloon rides? This ain't the 1850s, folks. In the words of a well-known comedian,
I hope the next guy gets hit by lightning. It flies around in little fart circles. And lands in a sewage treatment pond. And sinks with the rest of the turds.
Mr. Lighter Than Air.
Stuck in gear. And now they ruin Harvey's character. Fantastic. How are you still worried about the other engines teasing you? I thought we were past this already. And you're bent about making a little fuss over your crane when there are branches literally wedged in your gears? You don't want to go to the steamworks to maybe fix the problem? Nah, we're gonna plow right through trees, nearly run people over, and push ourselves off the track. Awesome decision making.
Sometimes, a bit of a fuss is what's needed to get the job done.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Thomas. Which way now? I could see Duncan pulling some shit like this, but Rusty? To my knowledge, Rusty is usually careful with his work, is he not? And here he ends up putting the signs and delivering his passengers to all the wrong places. Plus, why is the Topham family having a day in the hills? What, your railway wasn't good enough to pick a nice spot? And why did you specifically require Rusty? Did you not know there are other engines? Now for nothing, why didn't you confirm with Mr. Percival if Rusty was free? Hello? And I don't even know if this is just me, but is anyone else irritated at the fact that Brandon once again changed the voice for Rusty?
It's time to go. I can't be late for Sir Topham Hatt.
All right, but only if you have time and can do a good job.
Again, this is just Duncan's persona mushed into Rusty, which totally ruined his character. Saved you. Stop it forever, Thomas. Nobody asked you to stick your nose in others' business just because you're trying to act like everyone's hero. Stop it. And why are we really celebrating the rescue of a cat? It's a cat. It ain't nothing that special. But because it's the cat that belongs to the wife of the Fat Controller, oh, we have to make a big, huge deal about it. 'Cause people like firefighters apparently don't do that on a regular basis on Sodor. How odd. Where are these people's awards for actually handling dangerous fires back from the classic series and onwards? That is what they should be awarded for. You want to get a cat down from a tree? Call Mr. Incredible. Follow that flower. We all know Thomas can be a cheeky little shit, but this right here ain't even funny. Thomas, my dude, you wasted a whole truckload of flour that you damn well knew was for the children's supper. But you weren't thinking about that, because the little bug that crawled far up your little blue ass went ahead and did it anyway because you were jealous of James. You even saw the trail of flour behind you. How did you just see it moments after you were caught? Unbelievable. Oh, and by the way, the flour is in a dirty truck again. I'm not eating anything when it's been in that. James the Super Engine. I'm sorry if there were people that do enjoy this, but it just didn't click with me. I really don't see this as a James-related story. As cliche as it sounds, I feel like this would have been better for Thomas or Percy. Maybe even Rebecca. I just can't wrap my mind around the fact that nobody could figure out it was James. I mean, his number was showing, and did we all suddenly forget this?
There was only one big red engine on the island, and everyone knows his name is James.
I guess we did. Listen, by no means am I saying it's not okay to pretend, but I just felt it wasn't right for James. Especially when I hear him say something like,
Holy buffer plates!
Edward and the mail. How does he not know how to pull the mail train by this point in the series? Shouldn't be that difficult. But wait.
Edward can do it. Yes, Edward knows how to do everything.
Everyone thinks I know how to do everything. I hope I get it right.
What the hell gave you all that idea that Edward is a perfect engine? Not in this era, he ain't. What doesn't help is that the parcels look exactly the same. So how was Edward supposed to know what parcels go to where? That's right, you should have asked, but you didn't, because you didn't want to look silly. Is anyone else sick and tired of this plot by now? If you don't know how to do something, just ask! It isn't that hard! Signals crossed. Oh my god, stop being such a goddamn wimp, Toby! Grow a pair, would you? Or did they just suddenly drop after season 5 after your near-death experience? You've been to this station how many times? And you're afraid of the junction?
Every engine on Sodor knows that you don't like Knapford Junction.
Funny, I don't recall anyone mentioning that until now. Seems like Toby is another one they really don't know how to write. Toby is how old? And you downgrade him to this poor bastard shaking in his cow catchers? I am so sick of the poorly executed writing for old characters such as he. Here's an idea. Write them the way they are supposed to be written. Steady Eddie. This is yet another of the small handful of episodes that ruined Edward's character. Since when does he give a shit about being noticed? Do not turn into a James on us, Eddie. I think it's already been pointed out that the season 22 episode, The Water Wheel, is yet a rehash, once again, but on major doses of crack. Even the name, Steady Eddie. What kind of bullshit is this? Where did this nickname all of a sudden come from? And it isn't just Edward. You got Trusty Rusty and Excellent Emily. What did these characters do to deserve these nicknames? Nothing. Not to my knowledge, at least. I'm getting tired of these character-ruined episodes. Enough already! Thomas and the Monkey Palace. Alright. I'll admit the monkeys are kinda cute, but once again, that's not enough to make the episode better. Obviously, what threw me way off was the fantasy sequence. Let this sink in a minute. Thomas's fairy god controller, which is literally Jerubala, made Thomas the Monkey King. Seems like you're more worried about monkeys than doing your work, huh, Thomas? You really are an idiot sometimes, you know that? I also love how Rajiv makes out the monkeys to be these troublesome creatures just because they tried to steal his oh-so-precious crown. Newsflash, no one gives a shit. Oh, and there's one other thing I almost forgot.
Imagine me, Rajiv, without a crown. I'd be like, well, just another ordinary engine like you, I suppose. But I mean that in a nice way.
Off! Number 5. Crowning Around. Once again, another international character gone wrong. Rajiv is literally just an Indian version of James, but twice as irritating. Except James is a lot more tolerable, in some cases. What really grinds my gears is that this is yet another rehash of a previously made episode. Rajiv loses his beloved crown, goes into freaking panic mode trying to find it, and thinks he can't do his jumps like normal unless he's wearing it. Doesn't this sound oddly familiar to Henry's lucky trucks? Henry searches everywhere for his trucks on the way to the airport, but he keeps getting stuck. With all these hiccups, he believes it's the trucks that make him so lucky that he runs on time every goddamn day. And then he has this mindset that he can't be really useful unless he's pulling his lucky trucks. I've also seen this plotline in a few other kids' shows, and looking back, they really don't hold up. I don't like this particular storyline for any show, and I think it just needs to die out. You do not need an object to remind you whether or not you're a good worker. Just saying. Number 4. Thomas and the New Engine. This would have been a pretty good episode had Thomas not been a complete dick. Once again, to another new character. I don't understand why the writers had to make Thomas interact so harshly to the newbies. This is a repetitive arc that nobody wants to see constantly. In fact, how many times has Thomas done this? Let's recap. So here we have Thomas judging Neville for hanging around the Diesels. He tells his friends what he saw. The rest of the engines are now spreading rumors, thus making poor Neville public enemy number 1. Next, Rosie just mysteriously appears and is so into Thomas that she tries to copy him. Thomas is appalled by this and insists he doesn't need any help. Meanwhile, his ass gets stuck in the mud. And this is why you'll never have a girlfriend, Thomas.
Thomas and Rosie sitting in a tree.
Shut up! Thomas is then rude to Stanley, thinking nobody likes him anymore just because Stanley took over his Great Waterton job, causing him to enact in some foolish antics. Running away in the mine and knocking over the tower. Smooth move, asshole. Ryan then shows up and Thomas's masculinity dramatically drops when he feels like SDH is replacing him. He even goes above and beyond to trick Ryan about the bad coal, which in turn caused the dynamite to ignite. And if not put out, then all you sorry shits would have blown up. Then Ashima comes to Sodor and Thomas is an ass to her, all because of one little bump that nearly made the bastard fall headfirst into the sea. Hey, maybe he needs a good dunk. And then Hugo arrives, and it isn't just Thomas who judges him, the whole Steam team does without any context whatsoever. I don't care if they realized how wrong they were in the end, it was still a dick move and I'm gonna count it. And of course, all Nia wanted to do was help out, and what did Thomas do? Shoved her aside and treated her like dirt. Basically, the voices in Thomas's head were literally saying,
Nia, I want Ace!
And to think this all started with Emily when she first arrived. Obviously, she didn't know she had Thomas as coaches, and yet everyone treated her poorly. However, some might say that the anger here is completely justified, but because this is my list, guess what? Obviously, Thomas isn't like this all the time, so I still don't understand why this arc of his is really all that necessary. It's lazy writing. Speaking of which, Neville is probably one of the worst characters they brought to the series. There's nothing to him. This was his debut episode and all he says is,
"Hello!"
Then he's reduced to background character from here on out. What a waste of potential! But I think you all know why Neville was brought here. Alright, enough rambling about this one. Let's move on, shall we? Number 3. Cyclone Thomas. What moron thought this storyline was a good idea? Thomas so claims to be jealous of Isla because she's a medical plane, thus leading him to prance around like he's an actual medical train. You do realize that impersonation is a crime, right, Thomas? Are we really moving in this direction to where it's now okay for anyone to act like any profession they want and everyone is supposed to be okay with that? I understand if it's for fun and games, but when you actually think you're whatever profession and not letting the actual experts handle whatever situation, that's not okay. I can't even say anything about the cyclone part because after watching that a few times, it's not even that exciting. I swear, the writers literally have no clue what they're doing when writing these kinds of stories. In the words of Isla, this is exactly what I would tell Thomas.
Best leave this to the medical professionals.
Number 2. Trusty Rusty. Here is Season 7's worst episode. What kind of jackass is that foolish enough to remove a danger sign? Really? When Rusty says,
"Don't use the old wooden bridge. It's dangerous."
How about actually listening? Gee, there's an idea. Also, why is Duncan back to hating on Rusty? I thought this was cleared up in Season 4. But
how would you know? You're only a diesel. Rusty always makes things sound worse than they are.
Yeah, apparently that didn't last long. I'm confused as to why nobody even offered to help Duncan if he would have run out of coal. Oh wait, I forgot. Nobody knows how to do that. Honestly, Duncan and his dickhead driver should have fallen. That'd teach them both. What's worse is that later on in the series, after this incident, Duncan clearly hadn't learned a thing because many episodes later, he ended up running through a barrier because
I wanted an adventure.
And then the dumb trapped himself in the mine. I do hope the driver got sacked for this idiotic action. That kind of thing should not go unpunished. Obviously, we don't see it, but one can only hope. I just can't even with this episode. I really can't. Number 1. Too Loud Thomas. This is Thomas not only at his worst, but it's the most annoying and cringiest episode I think any one of us have had the displeasure to sit through. There goes Thomas, trying to follow on whatever the Lorenzo does. You can already sing very nicely. You do not need to know opera and copy Lorenzo and Beppis. I wanted to rip my ears out every time I heard Thomas try to sing. That voice was just so piercing, it was going right through me. So much I wanted to throw my iPad across the room. It says an awful lot when I feel that May's and Hasler's performances were very irritating. The only thing I can say that I honestly enjoyed about this was when Thomas finally shut the hell up. Freaking dumbass deserved it for all I, or all of us, could really give a shit. What didn't help was that the whistling was just as annoying. I'd like to put Thomas right up to the writer's ear and have them suffer the way we did. You guys want to hear this 24/7? Make it! Yeah, I thought so.